Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lumière Learning Monday. We are on season 5, episode 7, and our guest today is Vijay Bhat. Vijay, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Vijay came to the Lumière office twice. He's done the Sampurna workshop, he's also done a talk with us, and now we are on air for the first time doing this recording. So, Vijay, I'm delighted.
So am I. So am I. And congratulations on your unbroken stream of learning Mondays.
Yeah, though that shouldn't break, hopefully. So Vijay, you've been, you call yourself as a wanderer, a dabbler, seeker, Sherpa, learner, and I have over the years seen you go through so many uh, strong, powerful, scary journeys, and you've, come out and you've, shared your truths, your discoveries, and that's really how I first met you, right? When you talked, and that was also the book that we all know you through. So, there are life stages and there are experiences. And the latest one was when I saw you, your very, very trim self, because you had done Everest Base Camp. So that was like a completely new one. I think that was your treat to yourself for your 60th. It was almost, you did that for yourself. I would love for you to unpack, your journeys, and you can pick the journeys and really, what's the common threads and what have been some of the differences and your learnings with our audience here.
Sure. Happy to do that. Thank you for having me again. So, I want to just tell you about what happened yesterday, which is that I went to see this show called The Life of Pi. And it has been one of the books that had a huge impact on me when I first read it. And the movie had a profound impact on me when I first saw it. So I was very keen to go see the play, and it was just absolutely spectacular. Lots of puppetry and theatrics and wizardry and all this stuff. But for me, what was important was to remind myself that the story is perhaps more effective and more powerful than the spectacle. And that this story is about this thoughtful and sensitive boy who loses his family in a terrible storm and then is trapped on a boat with this fierce tiger, and how his relationship with that tiger really he survives and he gets transformed through that relationship. And for me it was like, yet again this map of the hero's journey pops up.
Hmm.
And for some of your viewers who may not be familiar with the hero's journey, it's something that a great comparative mythologist called Joseph Campbell discovered. Yes, there you go. The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Yes, that's his book. And many people are familiar with it, but maybe some people are not. So let me just very quickly share what that is.
Please.
So Joseph Campbell was studying the mythologies of the world, and he realized, much to his astonishment, that even though these cultures were not physically connected, the storytelling patterns in all the mythologies were very similar. And whether it is the Ramayana from or Mahabharata from our mythology, or whether it's the Iliad and the Odyssey from Greek mythology, or whether it's any mythology around the world, it followed a similar pattern, and he was able to discern that pattern and extract it and share it with the world in that book. That's why it's called a hero with a thousand faces, that even though there may be a thousand stories, there is a singular type of hero
Yes.
archetype. And Joseph Campbell, being a researcher and being an amazing researcher, he actually discovered that there are 17 steps in this journey. Now, It's fine for from an academic standpoint, but for normal people like us, 17 is quite a lot. And so, in my work, both on myself and with leaders, uh, we have kind of crunched it down into 5 steps, which are the key steps of any hero's journey. So, for example, in every such journey, there is a crisis.
Yeah.
And that crisis is something where a kind of equilibrium and normalcy gets shaken completely. Yeah. That crisis leads to a certain kind of a trauma where, because of that crisis, the person or the hero in this case has to enter an unfamiliar world, and he has to cope with that unfamiliar world. So, the storm and the ship's capsizing is Pi's crisis, and through that, he has to enter this traumatic world of being alone on a boat for 200 days in the Pacific Ocean with a tiger. The third big stage is what is called the supreme ordeal, which is that not only do you have to face the challenges of the unfamiliar world, but you have to face your deepest fear, the internal struggle that you have to go through. And to that extent, Pi has to deal with Richard Parker, the tiger, on the boat where he has nowhere to run, nowhere to go. And the two of them are on that boat, have to survive. And over a period of time, they learn to depend on each other. And in that process, there is a transformation where Pi discovers his gifts and his capabilities to be able to manage in that situation. And then he brings that knowledge and wisdom finally to the world after having made peace with the tiger. So there is a beautiful kind of arc where the tiger and he are very hostile towards each other. Then they kind of engage with each other and become dependent on each other. And at the end, he says, Richard Parker, I love you. And that's when the tiger goes away. And so it's such a beautiful story of all of us having that journey within ourselves. And in a way, the tiger is only a projection, the aggressive, predatory projection of who this young boy is. And he has to deal with it. So, in these 5 stages, we are able to see again and again and again, whether it is Ramayana with Ram's Vanvas and having to deal with Ravan, or whether it is Luke Skywalker, or whether it is any of the great heroes that we have seen, it follows this arc and it follows this path. Now, the interesting thing about it is not just from an entertainment standpoint, but from a research standpoint, is that there is research to show that looking at the story through this arc helps meaning making, reduces
Yes.
depression, reduces anxiety, allows people to really, really build more resilience and feel a sense of satisfaction with their life. So it's not just for entertainment, it's for a therapeutic purpose as well. Now, as always, there are critics. And my study shows that many people think that this is simplistic, reductionistic. How can you bring all the richness of all these cultures down to one story, etc., etc., etc.? Fair enough. That's one criticism. And the second criticism is that it's male dominated. Most of the mythologies have male heroes, and there's perhaps not enough work done. So, other researchers have taken on Campbell's motive and then looked at it from the woman's journey point of view. And there are some interesting differences and similarities. Now, why am I telling you this? Because this connects with my journeys. And when I've been reflecting on my life's journeys, they too follow this arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's really been interesting for me to see that, none of us is as unique or as individualistic as we think we are. We are all products of a pattern, and we are all contributors to a larger pattern that there is at work. Whether we understand it or not is a different matter. So let me pause here if you want to jump in and comment or ask me a question or anything.
Yes, you know, not so much the point that came to me, which is the whole critique that you talk about, and then still going back to saying what are those elements that continue to make sense,
Yeah.
and you not sort of dissing or dismissing it, because that's so easy to do for, and
Yes.
especially in today's times, you want to challenge and you want to dismiss, as opposed to it's harder work to try and understand what someone is trying to say from their lens, and then see how it makes sense. I think that's
Correct.
I find that approach more constructive, and therefore, for me, it's not reductionist. It's a lot of meaning making that Campbell makes through his work, and it's one of those books where you keep it keeps telling you, you keep discovering things, like with any book. If
Yeah.
you read Life of Pi when you're 18, it'll mean something to you. When you read Life of Pi at 58, it'll mean something else to you. It's exactly that, right? Because
Yes.
we are changing, and Vijay, what I want to uh, really understand is, at what juncture, did you take stock of this? Because this calls also for a lot of self-awareness. It's primarily that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, what are the gifts. You've been an advertising man. Just for my audiences who are joining, Vijay has been in advertising. You've played global roles, leadership. You have been a cancer coach, and you have then been a leadership coach. And in all of these, you've sort of left your, strong stamp and mark with your thinking, and helping your clients refine their thinking and make meaning, right? So, at this juncture, when you look back, what have been some of the big highs for you, that you're grateful for on your hero's journey? And then what have been the big fears that you've tackled, and your Richard Parker
Yeah.
that you've
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
worked with? And
Absolutely.
interestingly, I'm going to watch. It's also one of my favorites on Thursday, on Sunday.
Lovely. Lovely. We will compare notes later. So I picked two or three of my big life journeys to talk about.
Yes.
Uh, the first one, which you mentioned in your introduction, is the Everest Base Camp trek.
Yeah.
Now, I've been a hiker. You know that since Xavier's College, hiking was a tradition that we used to have. I did a few of those hikes. I enjoyed it. And then I've done a few treks, uh, various points in my life. And all of them have been transformative in some way, shape, or form. But the EBC trek was dramatically so.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because, I'm 63, and doing it in our 60s comes with its own physical, emotional challenges. We are used to a certain kind of comfort, we're used to a certain kind of way of doing things, and this completely puts you out of that comfort zone into that unfamiliar space. So that's one. The second is that nature, especially the high mountains, are incredibly beautiful and incredibly brutal.
Yes.
And so when you're out there, you have to kind of be able to co-hold both these aspects. And in a way, the mountain is a beautiful metaphor for life.
True.
And so for me, it was, very transformative in that sense as well. Challenging because of the altitude, 18,000 feet, low oxygen, the fatigue of climbing, all the rest of it. But more than that, it was the mental and the psychological part of it. And to be able to co-hold this. I was doing it with a bunch of my Xavier's friends, some of whom you know, BK, Josie, etc. And that also had a certain kind of a fellowship dimension to it, which was deeper and sweeter than if I was doing it with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
And that was tremendously fulfilling for me as well, in that process. And while I've had a deep connection with nature all my life, this one really solidified it. So, in a way, I've decided for myself that I will spend some time in the mountains every year. which is not something that I've been able to do or I've been inclined to do in the past. Whether I'll go on an ambitious trek or not doesn't matter. I will engage with the mountains because it means so much to me. So that is one journey that has been transformative. All the stages, crisis, trauma, challenge, transformation, all of them have played out in their own ways. I don't want to go into too much detail, but just to give you an overview. The second journey I want to talk about is more than 20 years ago, which is my cancer journey, which also you alluded to. And so, being tossed from a successful corporate life to having to deal with a serious life threatening illness like cancer, again, the trauma, the crisis, the challenge, dealing with myself. And there, the real question was me having to answer, who am I really? Am I defined by my corporate identity? Or do I truly have an identity that is going to be defined by my cancer? Or beneath all of those roles and situations, is there a deeper identity called Vijay Bhat, who others may or may not see, but maybe I also have not seen yet
Mm.
until I delve into it? And so while the cancer journey in a way continues in my personal capacity, then as a coach, as an author, as a advisor, all of these things, I think the essence of it is identity. So if the essence of the EBC trek was nature, the essence of the cancer journey and the elixir, as Joseph Campbell calls it, what you bring to the world is identity and the understanding of identity and the importance of deconstructing and reconstructing one's identity. So a big one for me and continues to be. And the third journey I want to talk about is happened much, much earlier in 1985 actually, when I was a young account supervisor at Ogilvy. And I had the chance, because my client was very generous and gave me a free ticket to go to Europe. It was an airline client, so it didn't cost them much to do that for me. But I took up the opportunity and backpacked across Europe for 5 weeks on that famous Eurail pass. I gave myself a budget of $20 a day. I managed to come back on $17 a day. And the traumatic experience was that I was pickpocketed in London on my first day.
Oh,
And I lost quite a lot of my money. And so I had to scramble. And again, my client came to my rescue and loaned me some money so I could actually have that trip. And that trip was really eye opening for me because I was able to see the richness and cultural diversity of Europe in a very short period of time. You know how it is, right? You can go a few hundred kilometers and you're in a completely different culture, different architecture, different cuisine, different clothing, different
yeah.
language, of course, etc. And so, what that did for me was it really opened my eyes to culture.
Yeah.
And so, for me, if I look at these three life journeys, and there are many others, but if I look at these three life journeys, they have put me in touch with the things that matter most to me: nature,
Yes.
culture, and self.
Yes.
And as I now look ahead to my life, if I can engage with nature, culture, and self, I think I will be blissfully happy. So, this is how these journeys occurred, many of them by chance, many of them by just good providence, but they have shaped me dramatically to being the person I am today and tomorrow. Now, there are other journeys as well, which have been more traumatic and which have been, but I want to just focus on these three for the moment, at least for this conversation.
When one of the things Joseph Campbell talks about is the helpers, yeah.
Yes.
So your and that then there is this whole so for those who don't know, there is the there are people who will come to you in the aid of helpers who will
Yeah.
enable you on this journey, and it's also to be aware of this, or who
Yes.
are these. And that's where the whole dimension of when you do the reflection of gratitude
Yes.
which is again a very important thing in these times that we live in,
Yes.
to move us from a negative mindset to a positive mindset, or to
Yes.
move from resentment to an opening of heart, which is
Yes.
again part of healing, right? It's
Yes.
also part
Yes.
of inner healing.
Yes.
So you want to just on
I
that?
just want to add a point to that. I think you've explained it very well. The point I want to add is that just like there will be unexpected allies who will help you along, there will also be unexpected adversaries who will challenge you. And in a funny way, what I discovered in all these journeys and in many others is that people who you think will be your allies may not show up for you and may actually become your detractors or your adversaries. I saw that definitely post my cancer, because many people could not relate to me in that identity. They could only relate to me in my identity as a successful corporate executive.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
And they dropped away, as they should, because the person I was becoming and the identity that was emerging, they were not able to relate to. So it's not about them, it's not about me, it's just that there was no fit. And yet, on the other hand, as you say, so many unexpected people came forward in so many unexpected ways. I mean, I truly experienced the kindness of strangers in all of these journeys, for which I am eternally grateful. And what I tried to do as a result of that is to really reshape my friend circle and my network around the people who really matter. So, which is why today the main criteria that I use to decide whether I want to spend time with someone is whether they are able to laugh at themselves or not. There's so much serious stuff and there's so much pain going on in the world right now that, if we can't laugh at ourselves, it's going to be a miserable life. So I just wanted to point out that much as there are allies for which we need to be grateful, there
Yes.
are also adversaries and people who will fall away for which we also need to be grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. You also talk about the elixir, yeah,
Yeah.
which is what the hero takes and he gives to the world. Who needs it? Now, this elixir is part or is the essence of the learning. So, you want to talk about your teacher, learner, coach, mentor
Sure.
journey and how that has transformed through each of these journeys? I mean, is there like a pattern? Is there a certain sameness? And what has dropped off for you? In what lessons do you want to give now that you are different from what you were giving earlier? Or what is it that you have retained because this is eternal in a sense for you?
I think the common thing, Deepa, and it's a great question. The common thing is that all these journeys and all journeys, not just these three, but the others, have kind of evoked, I think, a generosity of spirit,
Mm.
which I
Okay.
don't think I had to the same extent before.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like most young people, most people in the corporate rat race, etc., uh, as they say, to have, to be, or to serve. And I was on that to have patri track.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And what these journeys did for me is to see that there is more to life than just to have. There is also to be and to
Yeah.
recognize who you are. And then with that recognition, there arises a generosity of spirit. And I think that that generosity of spirit, which I benefited from so many, I simply want to be a channel to be able to let that flow to as many people as I possibly can in whichever role I'm playing. And connecting back to the hero's journey, sometimes we tend to get obsessed with the hero,
Yeah.
especially in our culture, uh, which idolizes heroes, and people stand outside Shah Rukh Khan's bungalow and all the rest of it. But we forget that the story is made up of many more characters than the hero. You talked about the allies, but there's also the elder, the teacher, the guide.
Yeah.
In all of these great stories, whether it is Dronacharya or Bhishma, or whether it is Vishwamitra, or whether it is Gandalf, or whether it is Yoda, or whether it is, all of these great stories.
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, exactly. And I think what Ogilvy did for me amazingly is that very early on in my career, they pushed me in a strange way into this training and development type of role,
Hmm.
which I was doing alongside my main role. And so, without my asking for it or without my wanting it, I got pushed into it. And that, in a way, has turned into my second career,
Yeah. Fascinating.
right? So, if I look at that track, that I, as an advertising guy, but I was also a trainer and a strategist, and all of that has shaped who I can become. So, right now, my goal is I don't need to be the hero anymore, apart from my own life journey. I'm very happy to be an ally to help other people who are on their journeys. And I'm very happy to be a teacher to those who may benefit from all my battle scars. So I think for me, it's also been a long journey, which started very early in my advertising career. And I'm much gratitude to Ogilvy and Mani Iyer for tossing me into it and saying, you can do it, go do it. You know?
So, very interestingly, I can see from the personal masteries track of Hero how you've taken us to the Sage, which is freedom and enjoyment, that track of the need space. So, you can at times be the explorer, you can at times, and go to the mountains, and you can come and be the sage, and you can then delve into your identity story and uh, the culture story and keep helping, serving.
Yeah. Beautifully said, beautifully said. And we do say that the hero's journey has the self mastery aspect, it also has the selfless service aspect.
Yeah.
And they're just two sides of the same coin, and one reinforces and fulfills the other. So beautifully said.
So, like in the Bhagavad Gita, it is from mamatva to moving to the samatva, or to samadrishti. So it's
Yes,
really then being able to see the me to we,
yes,
or the one to many,
yes,
or the little god to the infinite, as Campbell might say.
yes, exactly, exactly. From the immanent to the transcendent using Vedantic language.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, what do the next few years hold for Vijay? What does the seeker learner uh, looking to do, Vijay? That's my last. We just have a minute, 2 minutes to go.
Um, See, being a wanderer and a dabbler and being comfortable with that means that I don't set too many agendas. It's pretty loose.
Yeah.
Uh, I do know that I want to spend time with people who I care about and who care about me. Uh, and if there's anything I can do to contribute, I'm just happy to, as they say, die empty.
Beautiful.
Uh, that's really what I'm interested in. I want to lead a high quality life, but I want to lead a low fuss life.
Nice. Well said.
And whatever I can do in that process, I'm open for and ready for.
Simplifying, letting go,
Yes,
emptying, so to say.
yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
well said. We, Vijay, have had a 30 minutes, and I don't know where the 30 minutes went.
Yeah,
Like,
true,
poof. Yeah.
true.
And I think this was good for our listeners to get curious, to go and study, to go and look and explore and delve deeper on this subject. There are many, many provocations that Vijay has left us with, and uh, many messages there. So it's a high quality, short and pithy talk that best befits an ad man, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm no longer an ad man, but maybe you're right that you can take you can take Vijay out of advertising, but you can't take advertising out of Vijay. Maybe that is true indeed.
The essence has got advertising in it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you for this wonderful, stimulating, and thoughtful talk.
my pleasure entirely, and I hope that as many people as possible will benefit from it. Uh, that's all my hope, and it's a delight to engage with you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye. Thanks all.